You were not born to beg for love. You were not placed in this life to shrink yourself for someone else's comfort or approval. And yet, many of us stay tethered to people who chip away at our sense of self day after day, moment after moment. There are those who come into our lives and show us the warmth of true connection. And then there are those who leave nothing behind but the ache of being unseen. But the deepest wound is the one they inflict. It's the one we inflict upon ourselves by staying. Why do we hold on to what clearly harms us? Why do we ache for someone who doesn't see our value, who doesn't reciprocate the love we give so freely? Carl Jung offered a powerful lens to see this pattern. He didn't point the finger outward, he turned it inward. Because the real story is never just about the other person. It's about what they awaken in us, about the wounds they touch that were already there. When we find ourselves caught in cycle after cycle of giving too much and receiving too little, we are not unlucky. We are unconscious. The human psyche repeats what it doesn't heal. The same faces, the same heartbreaks, the same hollow apologies, over and over until we wake up. Until we ask, why am I drawn to pain disguised as love? The answer isn't out there, it's buried within us. Letting go, then, is not simply walking away. It's digging into your soul and pulling out every lie you've believed about what love should feel like. It's sitting with the uncomfortable truth that sometimes we stay, not because we're weak, but because we're still trying to rewrite an old story with a new character. Think of those nights when your heart whispered what your mind refused to hear, that this isn't love, not the kind that nurtures, not the kind that honors who you are. Still, you stayed. You told yourself they would change. You convinced yourself your love could fix them, but the truth is, real love doesn't need convincing. It doesn't make you prove your worth. And if it does, it's not love. It's a mirror reflecting the parts of you that still feel unworthy. Jung called it the shadow, the hidden pieces of our psyche we pretend don't exist. It's not evil, it's not wrong, it's just hurt. It's the voice that says, you must earn love. It's the old wound that believes being chosen means sacrificing your peace. And until you make that unconscious belief conscious, you will keep calling pain your destiny. But you have the power to stop the cycle. The moment you decide to let go of what drains you, something extraordinary begins. Your story starts to change. Suddenly you're no longer the one chasing love. You're the one choosing it. You see that staying in a place where you're not valued isn't loyalty. It's self-abandonment. You feel the fear rise, because the unknown is terrifying. But beneath that fear is a quiet voice saying, this is your moment. The moment you claim your worth not with words, but with action. The moment you decide you will no longer explain your value to someone who's never looked close enough to see it. Letting go isn't hate. It's not revenge. It's a sacred act of liberation. It's saying, I release you with gratitude because through you I found myself. It's stepping into a new reality where your presence is no longer wasted on those who don't cherish it. As you heal, your energy shifts. And as it does, the people around you begin to change. You attract not just love, but alignment, not just affection, but mutual respect. Every heartbreak you've endured carried a message. Every disappointment was a signal. Your unconscious has been whispering truths all along, but the noise of hope, denial, and fear drowned it out. You told yourself love means sacrifice, that staying is strength. But love without peace is not love. Affection without safety is not connection. When you finally stop begging for scraps, you create space for a feast. Ask yourself now, what do I really deserve? And if the answer is love that feels safe, seen, and whole, then go where that love lives. Let go of what breaks you and thank it for what it taught you. There's a power in walking away, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Because once you reclaim your worth, you'll never again shrink for someone who refuses to grow. There comes a moment when the begging ends, when the chasing stops, when the longing dissolves. In that stillness, a new version of you is born, the one who no longer needs to be chosen to feel whole, the one who has become the love they were always searching for, the one who looks in the mirror and finally says, you were enough all along. So let the silence speak. Let the emptiness teach. Let the old story fall away. Because the most beautiful chapter is the one you write from a place of wholeness, not need, not fear, not desperation, but truth. The truth that you are worthy. And you always were. You can be surrounded by people, laughter echoing around you, and still feel a hollow silence deep inside. That silence doesn't come from the absence of others, it comes from the absence of you. When you're disconnected from your own heart, even the warmest crowd can feel cold, but something changes the moment you begin to reconnect with yourself. When you start truly knowing who you are, solitude transforms. It's no longer a prison, it becomes a sanctuary. You stop reaching out for approval, stop measuring your worth through someone else's eyes. Relationships no longer feel like lifelines. They become choices, not needs. You choose to be with someone not because they complete you, but because they align with your completeness. And that shift, it changes everything. The pain of letting go can feel like tearing your soul in two. But what if that pain isn't a sign of loss? What if it's the first breath of your rebirth? Carl Jung once said that every deep transformation comes with an inner crisis. That ache you're feeling right now, that confusion and that emotional chaos, it's not a sign of weakness. It's the evidence that you're stepping away from what was familiar, even if it was hurting you, and walking toward a version of yourself that finally knows peace. Every time you hold on to someone who doesn't see you, you quietly shut the door on someone who could. As long as your energy is tied to the past, nothing new can enter your life. The universe has no space to work its magic, while your arms are full of what's already broken. Letting go is not failure, it is freedom, it is trust. It is the deep knowing that you deserve love that lifts you, not love that leaves you questioning yourself. The biggest mistake you can make is waiting for someone else to become who you need them to be. People don't change because you love them enough. They change because they choose to. And if they haven't chosen to by now, clinging to hope only drains you further. True transformation starts when you finally stop hoping for their awakening and begin your own. When you begin to value yourself, you no longer wait for closure, you create it. You stop explaining yourself to those who never really listened. And something powerful happens in that moment. Your world begins to shift. People who once overlooked you start to notice your silence. Those who took you for granted start to feel your absence. But by then, it's no longer about them. It's about you. Your growth, your new standards, your refusal to shrink for anyone's comfort. And here's the miracle. The moment you let go of what was never meant to stay, life responds. Doors open, new faces appear, connections begin to feel real, deep, effortless. The void you feared so much no longer feels empty, because you are in it. Your presence fills the space that was once occupied by longing and pain. You stand taller, breathe deeper, feel stronger, not because someone else came along, but because you came home to yourself. One decision can change everything. When you choose to walk away from what wounds you, you're not just ending a chapter, you're stepping into your power. No longer chasing love, no longer begging for someone to see your worth. That version of you, the one who begged, the one who clung, the one who doubted, begins to fade, and a new version rises. A version that stands in self-respect, in clarity, and unshakable peace. Still, the old stories won't leave easily. The ego will whisper, telling you to hold on, to wait a little longer, to fix it just one more time. It will feed you illusions of what could have been. But time doesn't heal people. Choice does. If they haven't chosen you by now, they won't. And every day you wait is a day stolen from the life that could be. That urge to hold on, to fight for someone who won't fight for you, that's not love. That's an echo of old wounds, of a belief buried deep inside that says you're not enough unless someone else approves. That belief is a lie. Your value has never depended on another's recognition. It's always been within you, waiting for you to see it. When you finally let go, that inner war begins to quiet. You stop needing to prove your worth through pain. You stop offering love in exchange for crumbs. The very act of releasing becomes a declaration. I choose me. Not out of bitterness, not out of pride, but from a place of deep truth. The kind of truth that doesn't scream, it simply is. Real connection doesn't need to be forced. It doesn't need to be begged for. It flows naturally when two souls see each other and still choose to stay. And once you reclaim your energy from a place where it was never appreciated, it begins to return to you, piece by piece, and with it comes vision. You start to see how much you were compromising, how much of yourself you were abandoning to keep something that was already slipping through your hands. Then something even greater begins to unfold. Synchronicity starts to show up. Those meaningful moments where the universe places exactly who and what you need on your path. Not because you chased it, but because you made space for it. But none of this can happen if you keep feeding a story that doesn't serve you anymore. Energy is sacred, and the moment you choose to stop pouring it into what drains you, you begin to awaken. Letting go isn't passive. It's the most powerful action you can take. It says, I no longer accept what hurts me. I release not out of defeat, but out of wisdom. Yes, it hurts. Of course it does. But pain isn't the enemy. It's the portal. Through that pain, you start to feel lighter, more free. You no longer carry a love that asked you to shrink, a relationship that only existed in dreams but not in reality. And in that space, you meet someone new, yourself. You stand alone, not in loneliness, but in fullness. You look in the mirror and see someone whole, not because someone told you so, but because you finally see it. You are enough. You always were. Yeah, from this place, life looks different. You no longer settle. You no longer tolerate what once kept you small. You no longer let fear of being alone keep you chained to the wrong people. Because you've remembered something essential. That love isn't something you fight for. It's something you choose. And it starts with choosing in you. Letting go isn't the end of a love story. It's the beginning of the right one. And when you finally choose yourself, life chooses you back in ways you never imagined. Something shifts deep inside you, so subtly at first, and then with the weight of something profound. The energy you once poured into trying to fix things, into waiting, hoping, doubting yourself, suddenly begins to return. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's powerful. It's as if something inside of you has finally let go of the breath it's been holding for far too long. That tightness, that invisible pressure you carried with every heartbeat begins to lift. And in that space, something softer enters. Clarity. You realize it was never really the relationship that held you. It was the fear. The belief that without this connection, you wouldn't be whole. You clung to the idea that you needed someone else to feel complete. But now you're starting to see the truth. The fear of letting go has nothing to do with love, and everything to do with a false belief that this is as good as it gets. But it's not. Not even close. When you release what doesn't see your worth, what doesn't treat you with care, you invite in something entirely different. You create space, not just in your life, but in your soul, for something more real, more aligned, more worthy of you. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about stepping into trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in the rhythm of life. Trust that what is meant for you does not require you to chase or force or prove. But to get there, you must have the courage to close the door that keeps you stuck. The door to the version of you that settled, that shrank, that accepted less. There's a path. One that Carl Jung often spoke about, not toward perfection, but toward wholeness. That journey isn't about pretending to be okay. It's about accepting every part of yourself, even the parts you once tried to hide, especially those. Because when you begin to embrace your full self, light and shadow, you start to understand what you truly need, and more importantly, what you no longer have to tolerate. Letting go is not just about walking away from someone else, it's about walking back to yourself. And when someone exits your life, it's an invitation. A moment to reflect, not just on them, but on you. What were you truly craving? Was it love or was it validation? Were you setting boundaries or constantly bending just to keep the peace? These endings are never random. They come bearing truth. Sometimes painful, but always freeing. When you refuse to let go, what you're really doing is clinging to a dream, not a reality. You're holding on to what you wanted them to be, not who they truly are. And that's what causes the hurt. Not the loss of them, but the loss of the illusion. Love should not feel like a battlefield where only you are fighting. If they can't meet you with the same respect, energy, and presence you bring, then their place in your life was always temporary, and that's okay. It's not about blame. It's not about resentment. It's about recognizing that your energy is sacred, and you deserve to give it only to what truly feeds your soul. Maybe the fear of being alone has been louder than your truth, but Jung said something powerful. True loneliness isn't the absence of others. It's the disconnection from yourself. You can be surrounded by people and still feel completely empty if the connection isn't real. When you begin to trust your own voice, your own company, your own soul, something begins to shift. You stop begging for scraps and start expecting a feast, because you know what you bring to the table. And when you choose yourself, everything around you begins to mirror that choice. You stop attracting from fear and start calling in from strength. The people who come into your life now won't ask you to shrink. They'll love you because you no longer hide who you are. Real love isn't a transaction. It's not earned by being less of yourself. It's not a reward for endurance. Real love sees you, holds you, supports you without condition. If you've ever felt like you had to become someone else just to be loved, then that was never love to begin with. It was a test of how long you'd abandon yourself just to feel wanted. But you don't have to do that anymore. You've outgrown that version of love, the one that asked for everything and gave little back. And now you're standing at the edge of something new, something honest, something real. You don't need to forget your past. You just need to stop carrying it. Letting go is choosing your peace over pain, choosing presence over memory, choosing your truth over someone else's comfort. Yes, it hurts. You'll miss things. You'll wonder what could have been. But in time, you'll see what you can do. What you gained was far more valuable. Yourself, your strength, your voice. And as you rebuild, slowly, consciously, you'll begin to notice something magical. The right people, the right energy, the right opportunities, they begin to flow in. Not because you chased them, but because you became the kind of person who no longer settles for less. You're not the same anymore. You've changed. You've grown. You've opened your eyes to things you once ignored. And now, you can never go back. You've seen the truth, and with that comes freedom. Not just from others, but from the version of yourself that thought you had to be someone else to be worthy of love. This is your turning point. The moment where you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself. Everything you need is already within you. And when you begin to live from that place, from wholeness, not need, you become magnetic to everything aligned with your highest self. The people who come now will see you as you are and choose to stay, not because they need something, but because your energy speaks the same language. What once broke you now becomes your greatest teacher. What once hurt you becomes the boundary you'll never cross again. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. And in that, you become a light for others still searching. There are so many who need to hear what you've learned. The ones who are still holding on to something that's been over for far too long. Now, maybe this message is their first step, just as it was yours, because sometimes all it takes is one reminder that letting go isn't losing. It's returning to yourself.